This is Potter Street Hill. Oh, where am I going? There you go. That's the footpath. And this is me walking along it. Needs to be cut back. Definitely needs to be cut back. This is a classic example of when I say you know, kind of use them or lose them. This is what I'm talking about, because this is well on the way to being hidden, and I can guarantee you, 100%, don't care what comes out of their mouths, any one of the property owners either side or any way along this walk will be more than happy to see it become forgotten and gone. It's quite an unusual thing to have like a proper right-hander. But anyway, I saw the other end of it and it looked like it had a tree across it, and I thought, because it came out basically into somebody's drive, well, of course it didn't. The guy extended his drive across the footpath. It just looked like a bit dodgy to go walking down his front garden to get onto a footpath. Look at this. I mean, honestly, I might have to turn back because I don't... Right, it's fallen down, it's come down from one of the properties. I'm going to come at it from the other side and see how far I can get, if I can get to this point or not. And then if I decide, I mean, I could clamber under, but the thing I don't want to do is have to clamber under to get back again. This is because although it looks simple enough to do, I've got to watch what I do with my back, basically. So I'm going to have to approach it from the other side and see if I can get to that point. But this lot all needs to be cut back because it says public footpath and you can't walk it. So I'll mention that to what I would gather. I don't think it's Harrow Borough. It might be Harrow Borough Council, or it might be Hillingdon Council. I mean, something like a tree like this, I mean, really, it does actually need to be removed. But yeah, this is not a footpath. This is a right of way still, but you can't use this. So it needs to be reported. And it's Saturday afternoon. I don't know what the time is. Probably about, I don't know, 3:30 or whatever it is. But there it is. The public footpath to Southview Road is blocked. I could have got down on my belly. I can't crouch, that's the problem. It doesn't really matter, but that's just something I have to take care of for myself. But that is a genuine situation where, I mean, like, this footpath, you come out, this is a public road here, but usually you would find the footpath disappearing again off into the trees. So the fact that it's disappeared on the other side suggests to me that it was left to look like it was no longer there to all but the untrained eye, and unfortunately then an untrained eye didn't come by, and so you could make it look like it would never been there. So yeah, that's that. Now, I know there's another footpath further up that goes out onto Sandy Lane and Watford Road, it's called at some points. It changes its name, becomes Hamper Mill Lane. Changes its name so many times. Anyway, Parkview Road, this, I think, yeah, this is the road. Well, it's basically the road I now have to go down to because I can't get through the public footpath. So, down I go. Whatever that was, is it Parkview South or something? And it wouldn't surprise me if I'm walking along here with a camera if some piece of self-importance wants to basically, no, actually heckle me, you know. Excuse me, young man, can I ask you what you're doing? Or what do you think you're doing? Being as you speak like that, you're immediately right, so I guess I'm busted. But anyway, a public right-of-way has been blocked off, and I've had to seek an alternate arrangement for the time being, at least. So there you go. And personally, I'm not that sure. Living as I do on not one but two private roads is an anomaly of where I live, but anyway, I'm just not sure how much you can restrict access to them. I know that where I live, anybody has the right. I think we worked it out that you could come along for any reason except for the purposes of committing a crime, to commit a crime. Apparently that, we think you might not be allowed to do that. Obviously you're not going to be allowed to do whatever the crime is, should you do it or attempt to do it. But I think for any other reason, even if you wanted to drive along and drive up and down going, oh, the great outdoors, you probably could. But anyway, what you usually find, it's like a demographic, isn't it? It's like when you survey, you can get some really strange looking survey answers. If you're, here's the word, if you're not very inclusive, and that could be accidental, in who you're surveying, you know. The readers of Fast Car magazine being asked what they think about cycle lanes. You know, you might get a slightly different perspective. The reason why I'm saying all of that is that, of course, in a place like this, it has more than its fair share of those that would seek to manipulate the rights of others to enjoy their equal free access. So, in other words, and I don't want to paint the picture for everyone, but you know, there is a certain amount of snob value with postcodes and streets and areas in this country, and it attracts those who have a heightened importance to that. So when you run into them, you'll find them exercising it at full bore. I've had people tell me they live on public roads, tell me this is a private road. It's like it's not. If you live on a private road and your local council come and resurface it, I mean, well, it's probably theft, because your local council are operating with public money. And if you live on a truly private road, you gotta fix it yourself, love. But it doesn't stop people from having their own blinkered view of what they feel the significance of it is, and they'll say anything. sometimes maybe they're just ill-informed. They've always had that view, and it's always been, you know, nodded along with. But yeah, so there I am, cryptically saying that basically if you walk around a place like this, you're more likely to have somebody try and impose their will on you. I don't want you here. I had somebody once, I was parked my car outside a neighbour's house once, and because there was another house that we all felt was rather ugly, and it was getting smacked down and someone else put in its place. So we were quite glad about that. And anyway, I jumped out of my car to take a look and to get some pictures of the digger and doing the demolition. The guy said to me, "Are you going to be long?" I was like, no. I was smiling because there was plenty of neighbours all standing watching this happen, almost cheering, saying, "At last, that monstrosity is gone." And yeah, he says, "Are you going to be long?" I said, "Well, I don't know, why?" He said, "Well, I don't like anybody parking outside my house." I must admit, he did leave me a bit speechless. Right, so I'm not going to duck under that tree, but I'm going to see if there's anything else down there. So there we go, in writing, public footpath to Potter Street Hill. That's where I was. This is the other end of it. This is the gentleman's. Well, it's not his front garden, is it? It's his garage. But so this here would have to be a public right of way. It's very generous of him to have tarmacked it. But I don't know if there's any other obstructions before I get to the one where I turn back from, but I don't. To be honest with you, I really don't like it. That's, unfortunately for me, that's what I can't run the risk of. I can't crouch. And it would just stress me out worrying about having to do the same coming back. So although of course I do have the right to coppice it and throw it over the gentleman's garden, but I think what I'll do is just leave it at that and just make a note of it to the local authority and see to it that they get and widen this thing out, because I'd like to use it. So there it is. There's an absolute perfect 100% example of, you see this? I mean, honestly, what do you reckon, the owner of this property, how much do you think he would like to have this sign removed and for that to sort of fall into complete and utter disuse, which it almost has done? Even if he doesn't extend his border, no one will have the right to walk down the side of his property. And there's always somebody who's an exception in a positive way as well. So I'm going to maybe do this guy a disservice. Maybe he wouldn't mind seeing it, especially if there was some repairs done to his fence or something along those lines. He might be quite happy. But look, let's see. Here's one. Just give you that little look that makes you sort of question your own right to exist. No words. It's just done with an imperious look down the nose of like mild little sort of tone of suspicion that you can't challenge, because it does the old Sadiq Khan kind of flailing armed innocence, you know. So you just have to you end up having like one of these tacit conversations where you don't mean what you're saying and he doesn't mean what he's saying, but you both know what you mean. And you know, a little bit petty really, but there you go. Afternoon. And to be honest with you, you have the right to film anything you can see with your eyes, but I don't even know, you know, lovely horse and somebody on horseback and her friend walking alongside. I don't know if I've got it on here. I'll fur out the faces. Scaring the horse. Actually, I'm going to record this. That's quite sweet. Yeah, I know. I was going to say I normally give people their privacy. And also, you know, there's lovely houses here. I can film them. I'm not going to do that. That's not really my point. I'd like to show people nice areas, but without getting too, if you like, personal. But this is Pinner Hill, right by the golf course. There's some private roads here. Not really sure what that means. Don't ask someone who lives here what it means, because you'll get their version of events, which will be, of course, biased, and they'll either be aware of doing it or they won't be, but neither will do you any use. So, but yeah, but what happened there was they were the builders were using some sort of machinery that was freaking out the horse. So she asked them to stop just while the horse went past, and they did. Patience, that's what it's all about, isn't it? A little bit of consideration. And they're probably, it's a Saturday afternoon, they've probably got a little target, they're probably in a hurry to finish off, so they get to some sort of point by the weekend or something. But even still, I bet they've got a little bit of satisfaction for that. Now I can carry on, but that's not really the point. I just wanted to show that footpath, and now it's turned into me filming over here, which, as you can see, I mean, it's a very, very lovely place. I think this road here is, I think it's in fact, I'm almost certain it's private. I think it's called Hillside Road or something like that here in Pinner. Well, is it Pinner? It's Northwood still, I think. HA5 though, but anyway, I seem to be, I wouldn't mind going up that way, to be honest with you, rather than going back down to Potter Street itself, which gives you a nice view as you go down. But I don't want to go down there because I like to do a loop. So there we go. I didn't film coming this way, and I'm not going to go down there and show you, but anyway, it's a nice area. Loads of really nice areas over here. There's footpaths all over the place. You end out on fields. I mean, I genuinely got lost the other day in the dark, and it was on and off raining, and I'd done my fair share of walking up to that point as well, so it was just quite comical. I knew I was fine, but you know, there's a little part of you that thinks, I mean, I really don't want to get it wrong for another mile and have to walk a mile back, because I'm definitely, you know, running out of fuel. So there's enough sort of, I'm just giving that as an example of how you can lose your way around here. There's enough in terms of footpaths crisscrossing all over the open fields and stuff, for you to have a moment if you don't pay attention. Anyway, this, by the way, these you can see, that looks like a plot of land, but very competitive around here for land. Some of these houses, you have a look, they're quite a big house, and it will be A, you know, 27A. And that means that the guy at number 27, his plot was even bigger, and somebody sold half of it and plopped a house on it. And but I didn't see these get planted, but I saw them when they were very small, and I thought maybe it's just going through probate or something like that, but why would you put trees there? But anyway, maybe there's something not so good about the land. Maybe it's got some sort of sinkhole, because developers, this has been like this for probably decades now, a couple of decades, near enough. And there have been better real estate moments than now to take advantage of a plot that sized in an area like this. I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine you're talking probably £3.5 million for a, you know, sort of 5-bedroom, 7 if you count the 2 in the loft, you know. That's just a sort of rough guess. I haven't really looked, but it's around, I would imagine it's around about that. So there's got to be some room in there for somebody to make some money. So the fact that no one's done it suggests to me that there's something wrong with it, or it's in what is expected to be a long-term, you know, disagreement. of some sort. You know, two 30-year-old brothers who can't agree on what should happen with it, something along those lines. Anyway, so I think I'm probably gonna just film this little point again, and then just see. It looks like there might be something up there, but I mean, there would have to be. Yeah, I don't really want to go clambering around because probably got the right to do so, but I'm not trying to wind anybody up. I'm just doing my own thing, but I know what happens when you do your own thing in areas like this, and it just ruins my day. Don't matter if I'm right or wrong, and I am right, but so what? You know, great. So some guy walks away disconsolate and having failed to violate my rights, and I feel like I don't, want to walk around anymore, even though I know I can. So what's the point in trying to trigger a moment like that? So anyway, so there it is. There's the path, and I'm gonna sign off and leave it at that, and just put my face on it and see if we can get this sorted out. Somebody needs to come and do some cutting, and I don't really want to be walking around here with a secateurs or a machete in my hand. Don't really want to see anybody else doing that either, but hopefully if they are, they'll have a nice green overalls with Hillingdon or Harrow Borough Council written on them, and yeah, that'll be that. Let's get that open. So there's a very small minority, and I can tell by my videos, and this is probably get about, if I post an Aston Martin in the showroom, it'll get a few hundred views. This will probably get about 15. But these are people, ramblers and so on, who want those access rights. And to be honest with you, it is a shortcut, because you've seen both ends of it. You've seen how long it took me to do a U-turn. So yeah, there it is. It's a useful thing. I don't think you're really supposed to go on them on your bike, so I have done before, and it's amazing how much you can access and how much you can see by using the footpaths network with a bike, if you can get a bike down there. So it's good to have them. Let's keep them. And so if you see any around you that are like this, film them, document them, get in touch with the council, get someone to come down and open them up, because they are our right, regardless of what anyone says. And then of course the classic thing is that when it's lost, it's lost. I mean, you know, I know places, I've got maps that show footpaths going through people's kitchens where I live, stuff like that. But you know, by that point, whoever's kitchen that is wasn't in on the trick. And you know, just don't want it to come to that, you know. And I wouldn't be very happy to try and force somebody to have their, you know, two more doors put in their kitchen so that I can walk through should I wish to. I wouldn't feel good about that. But so the best thing to do is to not violate them. I mean, I know a gentleman who went to court once because, to get the okay to tarmac his drive. He got given the okay, so he tarmacked his drive, and then he got told by the council he shouldn't have been given the okay, and so he needs to untarmac his drive. So he went to court and he lost that. And the first I heard about it is I was getting planning permission on a listed building that I lived in, and which I didn't need, but just belt and braces, because I knew one neighbour who was going to object to a bell box the size of a cigarette packet going outside for my alarm. So I went, you know, to get the planning permission for that. It wasn't, I don't think you'd call it a court, I suppose, but anyway, this guy was there before me, so we're all sitting in a room and hearing different cases, and he was the one there before me, I think, and he lost the appeal. he had to untarmac his drive at his own cost because the council had made a clerical error, admitted that they should not have given him the right to do it, and so therefore retracted their approval. I just wouldn't even imagine that. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, oh, it's probably a little bit exaggerated, that story. But there I was watching that happen. And so much so that when I think the person who went directly before me, she had a huge satellite dish in her front garden so she could get Russian TV. I'm not sure if she'd still be able to. But anyway, and that was, she lost the right to do that. You know, she's saying it's the only way of her staying in touch. Shows you how long ago it was. It must have been a good 25 to 30 years ago, 27 years ago, something like that. Anyway, she lost that. So I started with my little comment when I started my little 5 minutes was to say, of course, it's not quite the size of a satellite, and I showed them the bell box in my hand. It's a miniature one, and basically they laughed and just said, yeah, I think we could probably accommodate that. Anybody have any objections? We've got one to read out from an unnamed neighbour, and I mentioned the woman's name, and there was like a smirk in the room, and I said, of course I know you can't confirm nor deny that. And it was quite funny because I went back triumphant with my planning application, and I told my neighbours, and telling her this one objector was quite there's a footpath at the end of it. It might do. I can't remember. I'm still a bit. There's a footpath closed off down there. That's why I'm filming. I'm going to send it into the council. But yeah, it goes. I think there's a whole bunch of different ways you can go. I ended up near enough in Hatch End when I did it the other week in the dark. It wasn't good. No. But I think that's up there. It goes off and then it probably splits. And Oxley Woods probably as well.
Okay. Or maybe St John's School.
Well, it might be. St John's School's sort of there, the back. So I know there's another footpath over there, but I think this is a dead end certainly for cars. But
there's a path that goes all the way to Oxley, doesn't it?
Yeah, it branches off in three different ways at some point. So
it's a bit muddy. That's the only thing. We tried it at the
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's muddy and slippery.
Yeah. It goes all the way back behind the golf course.
Yeah.
Albury Drive, and then the Oxley as well.
Yeah. And then you can split and it will go down towards almost Pinner Green. There's one that goes there as well, so I did that. Yeah, okay. See ya. So yeah, I decided it seems that I'm going this way now, but in traditional terms I say it's just another minute and it's more than that. But anyway, so yeah, I remember saying to this neighbour, isn't it great? You know, I got the planning permission, and she was like, yes. Obviously not very happy about it. And I said, so they didn't have any, there was one objection. I said, but other than that, you know, the councillors looked at it and kind of laughed and wondered why anybody would object to such a small little device. And it was just lovely to do that, have that sort of, and she was like, oh yeah. That's what I was saying earlier in this talk actually about that, where you end up in a conversation with someone and neither one is saying the exact words that they mean, but the meaning is there for both to see, you know. And I don't know if she knew what I was doing, but I knew it was her that had objected. But she was okay. I ended up being the freeholder for that property actually in the end for a few years, until I said, as soon as you're ready, you get all the other, you know, it's like a townhouse split into apartments. If you can get everyone else on board, I'll sell you it back. But we didn't want the landlord we had because it had caused issues. And we managed to find him and tried to get all four of us to buy the lease off of him. And there was always one person who didn't have the money. And so I said, you know what, I'll just do it. So I did. So there, you know, it was fine in the end. It was just, and you know, that was just her opinion. It was a grade 2 listed property, and she didn't want anything stuck on the outside of it. And I did. I just wanted this. Actually, it was a remote control alarm. It used to, like a proper car, it would like tweet at you when you set it with the button on your key rings, like and basically there was no wiring inside. It was all in would it be infrared? I don't know how they were linked anyway, but there was no wiring to do inside for the PR, you know, the infrared detectors. And anyway, it used to false alarm, and that's where I was told. Always hoover behind those things and wipe over the front, because a spider walking across the front of them looks really big, because back in those days that the detector would fan out, so the further you were away, the bigger you had to be to cross the beams to trigger it. But of course, a spider walking across right where the beam started would trip it. And I'm not sure if that's the reason, but I ended up getting to the point where I felt a little bit ashamed. And so, you know, stopped setting it. I think it would tweet 3 times if it had gone off since you last set it or something like that. And also I had the odd moment where neighbours told me, and you know, just feel a bit embarrassed then, planning permission or no planning permission, to have this alarm keep triggering. So in the end I hardly used it, I think, really. But yeah, there you go, Oxywoods Nature Reserve. So that's another thing about rights of way. They don't normally start from nowhere. So, you know, you say that's public, this Oxywoods. Well, you can't just dump somebody out on a footpath into somewhere they have no right to be. So I remember we were taking our county council to court, residents, over the fact that they'd failed to inform people of their rights to use the London Loop over where I live. And anyway, we took them to court, and they tried to do a deal on the court steps. It was like, well, you should have thought about that before you wasted public money, you know, just not doing your duty when we just told you all you need to do. And anyway, so now we're going to make it so with the judge. So they're still in contempt of that decision, actually, because they still haven't done all the things they were ordered to do, like 4, 5, 6 years later. But anyway, they during the process of getting to the bottom of all that, one of the the lawyer that we engaged, actually, I think he said something along the lines of, what am I supposed to do, a light from on high? when we were being told that the footpath simply ends at this point. And I thought that was quite good, you know. So what are people supposed to do, a light from on high? And comical moment, but I'm told that gentleman who represented us is the gentleman who temporarily, at least, stopped, I think it was the parking being enforced on a Sunday in London or something along those lines. I don't think it was a congestion charge. It was one of those anyway. Took on probably TfL and won. I don't mind giving him a call again, if you know what I mean. Anyway, was it EC4 or EC3? EC4, isn't it? Where all the lawyers are. And he was, his fees tended to back up his claims of being quite useful to know. Anyway, there it is. So I've mildly, the gentleman that I was talking to, I've just in my head gone back what I told him, and it is vaguely true about where the footpaths and everything were, and but it's not, I wasn't quite where I was. 90 degrees out from where I thought I was. Where they were going was where it turns into a path, I think. Anyway, but he knew. Between us, we kind of knew, but the accuracy wasn't full. But I'm glad I did this, because there must have been a stopping off order there, but private road, residents only. How does that work? Maybe for cars. But anyway, here is all right. So this is the one which goes down to what's the name of it? I think it's Sandy Lane. Weirdly enough, this is Sandy Lane up here as well. And then, so it's called Watford Road by the time you get down to the end here. And it is actually more or less the way that I want to go. So maybe I'll just carry on there. It's funny, there's somebody standing outside taking photos of himself and the private road. Something similar to what I'm doing really, but I'm sure I would be more likely to be questioned than he would. But, anyway, yeah. So that's still Potter Street Hill, I think. It may, and that sort of turns into Sandy Lane, and this, it's not a particularly short footpath, and it is a bit overgrown in places. I don't think there's ever been a video that I've done where it's been as short as I said it was going to be. But as I go to stop filming, I think, well, why would I? I might as well carry on. So there's the school. That's what the gentleman was talking about. Is it St John's or something? But anyway, I did walk up here, I think like a week or two ago. And I remember there were a couple of places where I had to sort of duck a little bit, but nothing like as bad as that other one. So, yeah, I was sort of, and I remember from the other way thinking, oh, this is longer than I thought it would be, to come up here, but yeah. But this is a bit more like it. I mean, the width is the width, so, you know, you can't make it wider than it actually was. But usually, you know, things do encroach, start coming in. And this feels a bit more like, you know, a bit more like it in terms of footpath. And I don't think they're used anything like as much as they used to be. But you know, this is more like it. This is a cut through. If I didn't use this and I still wanted to get to where this is going, it'd probably take me an extra 10 minutes, I would say. Yeah, to not use this and get to where this comes out to. And you can continue to cut all the way through, like basically when they come, you'll see the main road, what's it called, Watford Road. I can't remember what is it the A414 or 408, maybe, I'm not really sure. Anyway, it goes past the NATO base, for those who know the area, and it kind of goes from northward to Bushy, and probably obviously beyond, but anyway, that's the sort of stretch of it, like a kind of like an L shape or a dog leg or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, where this joins up with Watford Road, you cross the road and it carries on again, so you can cut through another bunch of roads and end up, I think in actual fact you could end up if you wanted to carry on just walking straight at Mount Vernon Hospital. And I think, what does it do when you get there? I think it might go down the side of the cricket pitch there near Duxhill Road, which goes off down to Ruislip via a bunch of other woods, Mad Bess Woods and various other things. So it's just so extensive. I mean, the London Loop is almost like the M25 of footpaths. Goes all the way around London, and if I remember rightly, it goes through Moore Park. That was what we went to court over, and it does go through there. And I don't think this is right, but this is a sort of a folklore tale, I suppose, but was that the only other place where the London Loop stopped and sort of rerouted itself was at Fulham Football Ground, where it went round the ground because it couldn't go along the side of the Thames because the stand was there, and the new stand, which has now been opened, part of the agreement with it was that it would have to allow open up that loop, you know, the Riverside Walk. So the stand at the back of the stand doesn't go to, well, it does obviously go to the floor, but it's reinstated the footpath underneath it, so you no longer have to go round Craven Cottage if you are walking on that footpath. You can carry on walking alongside the very lovely River Thames. So I reckon there's probably a couple of other places where it's not quite as it should be, but that was what I was told, was that they were the only two. In fact, I was told that the only place the London Loop didn't continue through where it should was in Moore Park. But like I say, from South Approach up through to Bedford Road, over Wolsey Road through Bedford Road, that's where it goes, and on to Batchworth Lane. It's getting a bit thinner here. That I think I knew that Craven Cottage, Fulham's football ground, who are in the Premier League right now, their old stand, it's sort of blocked off that, but it's been reinstated as part of the stipulation on the planning permission approval, you know. So there's probably other places, I'm sure there is, but anyway, those are two that I know of, and I also happen to know that they've both been rectified now. So even in these modern times, and even up against the might of a borough council, even up against the might of quasi upper class, let's call it upper middle class suburbia, and even and those guys can be quite onerous, even if the subject matter is considered petty. If you're getting slaughtered, you're getting slaughtered. So they fight as hard as anyone, and even up against the might of what is now currently a Premier League football club. You can have your rights protected and even rectified, even though I've said you lose it, you know, you use it or you lose it. Well, somehow what was once lost was reinstated in the case of Fulham, and well done to them for, it's probably like a section 106 or some sort of stipulation that they had to do it, but even still, well done for them for doing that. As a nice community thing to do. People can now walk, and the thing is, it's advertising for the ground, isn't it, I suppose, and the club. You know, very nice on a summer's evening to go walking along the banks of the River Thames. So there you go. So here's another little thing. Well, this is obviously rotten and was why it was taken down, but shows that a very big tree covering a footpath, and of course one there, forgot to mention, can be ripped out. So there's no excuse for anything that might be said to me in the negative about that footpath that I showed you. It needs to be ripped open, quite literally, and put back into use. And my advice to anybody watching this with fascination is seek out yours and use them. Probably in the daylight would be a bit better. And some of them may be in slightly less comfortable places to be walking around in which case, you know, do your due diligence, and even if you get, you know, try and maintain a politeness even if you're not seeing eye to eye. If you come across somebody telling you that you shouldn't be there, you know, just you'll feel better afterwards as well. So, but know your rights, use them or lose them. So here we go. I don't know why it stopped here. Is it temporary lights? Yeah. I'll cross and I'll show you what I mean. This is Watford Road, and this is exactly what I mean about a footpath carrying on. And in actual fact, I can carry on because I know where I parked my car, so I might as well just carry on to where I can. I mean, in fact, I already. This is going to be a bit longer now, I'm afraid. I'm not one for editing if I can avoid it, so it's probably going to go up pretty raw. But I think I'll show you where this goes. I know now from here, although I haven't walked this bit and the next little slither. I haven't walked for maybe since last summer or something. So I'm not sure what it's going to be like. I'm sure it's going to be fine. But can you see the difference though between this and the other footpath that I initially started the video about? I mean, this is exactly it, guys. And you know, if it's not important to you, I'm absolutely amazed that you've watched this far. What is that to do? In order to make me wrong or something? I mean, well, good for you then. But I would imagine by now that if you've got this far on the video, that you're not in the UK, but you're loving the quirkiness of English rights of way, or you are finding it interesting for some other reason. That pylon, I probably shouldn't record it really, but anyway, just once again to show you how quirky this country is. That's the NATO headquarters, so that's where the nuclear submarines in the North Atlantic are controlled by. And in sleepy little England, I saw a little thing on the went and got my free coffee in Waitrose today and saw the newspapers on the stand, and the headlines on one of them was US to hold nuclear missiles in the UK again, or something along those lines, or in England. Didn't know they didn't, but anyway, it's quite funny, isn't it? North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, yeah. I won't bother getting into it, but as you can see, that was like a little cul-de-sac, little dead-end road with a few little privet drive, Harry Potter style muggles houses. Everything you look at is over $1 million around here right now. But then, you know, it carries on again on its merry little way, and I think the word that I would never use in seriousness, but I'm going to use it for mild comic value, is the juxtaposition of the NATO headquarters dipped in, well, I wouldn't say English countryside, it's suburban. Oh, there needs to be a word for half countryside. Semi-rural, I suppose, is the nearest thing we have to fireworks. I was going for a little walk on the Chest Valley yesterday, and there was a very, very, very loud bang indeed from a gun. Quite close to me, obviously it wouldn't have been loud. And then more worrying, there was one further away, that in my head was pointing at the big loud one. You'd normally think a shooting party would be standing all close together, so every bang would come from roughly the same area, but this was not the case. And yeah, anyway, I continued my walk away from the source of those, or probable source of those bangs. Now this is quite another little quirky little bit. This is another little side street. It's a dead end. So that would just be an opening in the woods that they tore down and threw some houses on. Fair enough. But look, the footpath's still here. So if I go out there, I'll probably come out onto the road again. Yeah, this same path should go all the way through, including that one that was blocked off, really. So, and that's why I showed at the beginning the other side of that footpath where there was no other. It didn't continue. You know, there was nowhere where you could go back into the woods, if you know what I mean, and carry on. That suggests that it may have widened out to follow the route of the entire road, maybe. But usually that's one of those things where you look, I think there's probably some sort of a violation there. It's not that I would necessarily get involved in something like that, because this isn't what I do for a living. It's just, you know, oh, it's a balloon. But, you know, we had a situation on their doorstep that really, we were getting tired of people being told they weren't allowed to be, you know, where I lived, and it wasn't the case. And so, we took exception to it and did a little community thing and pulled off a big win for us. And I think that's the thing as well, is that it's almost like saying never let the size of the problem, either its bigness or its smallness, permit you to not bother. But you know, we just thought it would get to the point where we wouldn't be allowed to have visitors. We wouldn't be allowed to drive perhaps even our own cars in the area and all this sort of stuff. And judging by some of the shenanigans that's gone on in the wider zone, I don't think we were a million miles from the truth. And this may be, I may be counting my chickens, but it does seem to have, they do seem to have straightened out a little bit, these authorities, with some of the shenanigans that they were pulling where I live. But who knows? Traditionally what's happened is their latest dastardly plan comes out of the blue, perfectly formed, and for some reason already with the backing of the local authority, which is just bizarre. So in other words, you get the local private organisation who are maintaining the roads and verges for the area. If it's, you know, there's some private roads, you get them bypassing any planning laws and getting the full support of the local and even county authority in doing that to exercise their own fancied gain. And it's involved all kinds of plans to have anti-tank barriers at the start of just about every road around me and all these things. You just wonder, why are they fighting so hard for this? This is like, you know, it just makes you think there's more to it than what we know, because they're fighting too hard. This isn't just a piece of snobbery. This isn't just because they fancy having their property values go up 5 or 10%, although of course that would mean at the point of sale that they would be, you know, noticeably better off financially. But no, it's to have local authorities and county authorities really left, right and centre breaking all kinds of whatever you want to call them, protocols, laws, whatever, to get them what they want was, I thought you weren't allowed to have these, but you've got to have the sign, I suppose. Can you see that? Danger, security spikes, do not climb, high risk of injury. They look like rubber to me, but anyway, I wouldn't, hopefully wouldn't have a need to climb over that fence. So yeah, so as petty as it may seem, sometimes if you can, you've got to stand your ground and organise up a little bit as a community and gen yourself up as to what your rights are and how and what rights you have in law to defend yourself and how to go about doing that. And by defend yourself, I'm talking about, you know, legally, not you know, with a baseball bat or something. But yeah, sometimes you do have to get off your backside and do something. And for me, I was quite fortunate that we had somebody who was sponsoring it financially and somebody who was very clued up, former council officer, who knew exactly the way things should be and how you go about getting them put back like that. And that's how he could see just how rotten and how suspicious the local and county authorities' responses were. I always hear him saying they're not supposed to do that. That's not right. That's not what you know, and some choice words and stuff, and quick call to the lawyer, and yeah, you're right, and here's why, and here's what to do next. And as I say, we ended up winning on that. What is that there? That's, oh, I know, that is just some houses, but anyway, so yeah, do it. I did help, I definitely did help, but I didn't have the weight of the whole situation on my shoulders. I was concerned as a resident, but there were a lot smarter people and there was more money than mine involved. So I'm not gonna, I'll take credit for being neighbourly and seeing it through, but it wasn't, you know, by a long shot, I'd probably say I was barely 10% of the help on that cycle. But who knows what difference it made. It was educational and it was satisfactory. It was satisfying. There you go. So yeah, once again, that's cutting across another road, just as they do. That sounds like I can't cruise it. Sounds like a Bentley Continental. I quite like those, although they have dated some of the older ones. But anyway, yeah. So there we go. This is a really typical example of public rights of way. You see them just burrowing through. Well, not sprawling metropolis, is it? It's not even sprawling anything, but burgeoning. Is that less or more than sprawling? Don't know. Burgeoning suburbia. Another little, see, look, just a little dead end. There would obviously woodlands here, but you put this in, okay, but it doesn't give you the right to wipe out the public rights of way. Imagine, do you think the developer wanted to leave that in? No, they didn't. Do you think the potential buyers wanted that there? No, they didn't. And yet here it is. So it's there because it's there in law. You know, you have to make sure you can comply. Now, this doesn't look like an animal. This looks like an exploding pillar of some sort. But anyway, hasn't popped a pigeon. Sometimes a fox might have, popped a pigeon. So, yeah, Eastbury Road. That goes down to what used to be, for those who know the area, legendary red garage door. Been like that for years, but he's sold that property now, so it'll be interesting to see what's done with it. But yeah, Blockbusters used to be down there on the right. So I can, at any point, I can use the road network to get back to my car, but I'm not going to. I've gone on one, haven't I? I've ended up going on one again. My plan, if I haven't said it before, is at some point I will chop up some of these longer videos to highlight certain things, and certainly you can put chapters in them, which I will try to do. But taking just the example of that at the beginning of the video and the point of the video of that rights of way, well, violation is a bit strong, but well, it is a violation, but I'm not trying to be too Citizen Smith about it. But there you go, that's well dead, that can come down. But look, we've gone around it. Might be awkward. You have to get off your bike, but I think you're not supposed to be on bikes and footpaths. Anyway, I don't know for sure, but yeah, so I might chop this down at some point into separate segments, but I think it doesn't do me any favors to post these, because I think it probably downgrades my channel's SEO ranking, because these don't get as much views, and it confuses, I think, probably my subscribers who are expecting to see a car video. So I should probably have another channel for these. I put them in a different playlist, but yeah, anyway, we'll see. I don't think I'm alone in having a disparate set of interests, but so yeah, on one hand I'm a bit of a petrol head, but on the other hand I actually do genuinely like walking, and Knightsbridge is probably one of my favourite places in the world, and yet I was born in a little village right where they make the Formula 1 F1 engines, actually, from Mercedes now, but I like country, and I think that's why I like this area, because you haven't committed. You've got either. I was down in Plymouth in Devon for a while, and that is remarkable down there, but Exeter's probably the nicest sort of town, city or whatever around there, and that's 30 or 40 miles away. So you go down there and you're committed. If there's something you need that isn't there, you've got a 3-hour journey, 4-hour journey to get to it. So it's a real commitment to live down there. And if there is something you miss, like for me would be central London, I miss that. I could always come back every so often, but you tend to not do so. And then end up feeling a bit unsatisfied where you are, but all you need is a break from it, that's all. Who say to people about England, it's great, you just have to get out of it every so often. It's been a while since I did, but anyway. So that road we just crossed over, this path goes all the way up to that. That one does a right, it sort of almost goes to Batchworth Lane, if those of you who know that. But I'm not really sure, it's not marked as a footpath, but you can do it. Anyway, it's a bit of a weird one, but here I thought I would show you, and this is going to go out to the road where my car is parked actually, but I thought I would show you a little anomaly, as the word, as the saying goes. But this is the Metropolitan line, but guess what? Footpath, you want to put your train line here, well you can, but you've got to provide the footpath, so it's going to have to be a tunnel or a bridge. So what I love about this area is what I'm not probably really being, one of the things I love about this area, anyway, I'm not going to probably be able to show you, but there's a gentleman here, a little entrepreneur, and I don't mean that tongue-in-cheek, there's loads of people who've got their own businesses around here. Anyway, that's there you go. So there, in fact, you can see there's a Met Line train coming past. I can get you. Going down, that's in between Northwood and Moore Park stations, and Actually, you know someone who lives on the corner of this part of the footpath, but I respect their privacy too. Anyway, that gentleman wasn't quite what I was thinking, but I've worked business to business for quite a long time, 30 years or so, and a lot of my clients, if you like, were small, medium enterprises, 8, 10, 15, maybe 20 or 30 staff. And they're just great people to... I realised the other day, the obvious really is that they were quite creative people. I suppose as a musician that maybe would be so, but I never used to really think of it like that. People say, I suppose, you're creative and he's creative, and so you'd probably get along. And I used to think, I don't know, we either will or we won't. But here's another tree, probably needs to be tugged down at some point. Not that I'm in favour of breaking trees down, but anyway, you can still get along the path, so it's not so bad. It carries on, it goes behind a school down there. But they creatives, I can't really work for people that are money motivated. Don't get me wrong, I like a couple of quid. It's very fun getting paid. But if I'm not enjoying doing it, it's really, really difficult to, working for yourself to actually get the phone to ring. It's quite mystical sometimes. There's a classic old saying, 50% of my marketing works. I don't know what 50%, but 50% of it does work, and that's an old joke, if you like, from the industry. You just knock every ball out the park as hard as you can, and it makes you some money. And sometimes you can take your foot off the gas and pick your battles, but usually you still have to just keep, charge of the light brigade to stay busy and prosperous, and just take really thorough, proper, genuine, sincere care of people. You don't go around advertising that that's what you do. Was it over promising, over promise and under deliver, under promise and over deliver, and you don't even want to be telling people that that's what you do. You just want it to be. What you need is customer satisfaction, and of course you need your own satisfaction, because you'll be there tomorrow as well. So you wouldn't think of that, would you? That don't want to lose a customer, you don't want to lose yourself either. So don't go around breaking your own spirit by allowing people to take the shine off of your enjoyment of what you do. And when I say allow people, I include yourself. I used to say that to people, is why would I do something that would make me end up hating this job? It's all I've got. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm not going to turn it into something I don't want to do. I sort of understood, being the person who was saying that. I had some understanding of what was coming out of my mouth. But anyway, I just kind of like that about this area. There's a bit of enterprise there, a bit of lovely when you got kids, and the friendships you end up with and stuff like that. But most people tend to enjoy being prosperous more than constantly struggling. But I'm not really keen about the sort of subculture that is born out of a constant struggle, almost to make yourself right for not being able to get your SH1T together. It's like, I don't, it's like it's a movement called style out failure. So you fail, style it out. It's like the anti-hero, isn't it? It's like, alright, it's quite funny. It's not bad for a little sitcom if you don't mind spending your Saturday evenings indoors watching telly. But really, most of us would prefer to set a few goals and make a good, enjoyable fist of heading towards them. And so yeah, it's nice to be around people that have got happy stories to tell on that subject on an ongoing basis. You know, they're active, their morale is high, they feel confident because they're setting little goals and tending to achieve them, even if they're not making a big song and dance by naming each goal. It's just a little thought, I think I'm going to go do blah, a little thought. They forgot they even thought it, and then it happened and they made it happen, and it just keeps the confidence up. It's like in football terms, winning matches. You look for the signs of success, but a notch above that is the success itself, even if you haven't got a clue how it happened. You can dream something a million times, but nothing quite replaces the feeling of it actually occurring. So, but you know, get in there and pitch, head towards something you feel happy about heading towards, and make some inroads on that, and get some stories to tell, even for yourself. There you go, there's some ideal scene for you. My car's parked down here. It's parked down here because the other side of that road there, which is northward, not High Street, Green Lane, but it is the High Street. It's not called the High Street until you get around the corner where it's the old High Street, but it's called the High Street. Anyway, whatever, England again. But yeah, this is now, weirdly enough, it becomes, you see here, this is, actually let me just quickly go back. This up here, this is Sandy Lodge Way, right? This here is Dean Road. It's a private road, very nice, pretty much. There's a few little cul-de-sacs off of it, but generally speaking it's just a run through up onto, I think it's A404 Rickmansworth Road or whatever, goes up to Amersham and Pinner. But look, Dean Road's there and Dean Road is there. Well, there it's private, it does a right angle, and from here down it's called Dean Road, and it's no longer private. There are some public rights of way that cross across this as well over here. This is a great country for these silly little hobbit type things, and even though this looks a little bit built up, you know, it is suburbia, but you know, not exactly, it doesn't look necessarily too green unless you get up above it and you see just how much, you know, the canopy of trees, all of this lot is built in. And basically, yeah, it's still, it's a nice place to be. There's some pride in the area. I mean, the traditional sense of the word pride, please, thank you. Traditional sense of the rainbow as well, why not horror at it? But anyway, don't like my rights violated. No matter how PC I'm being told it would be, if I could just allow a couple more of my rights to be violated, I'd be being very politically correct. Nah, thanks, I don't want that. Just my choice. That's all. Just exercising my own personal wish. So I won't necessarily impart it too thoroughly on others. And don't do the same to me. So there we go. So yeah, back at my car. There's Northwood, downtown Northwood. They don't get any more downtown in Northwood than that. And yeah, that's it. That's my little rights of way rant, and I can't believe that this video has lasted all the way from Pinner or Pinner Hill into Northwood, but it has. And this was the guy who was doing that walk. Oh, my face isn't covered up, don't look too much of a hoodlum. Anyhow, thank you if you watched all the way through, you're a legend. But I hope it's helpful, even if you skipped through. I hope you found it helpful in some way, just enjoyable to look at, or some of the information that I've said, or whatever. And I hope it passed a chunk of time for you and that you're glad that it did. Right? Like, subscribe, keep watching, keep doing whatever you will. You can make some comments if you want to share it to somebody. They don't have to watch it, but at least you've shared it. And I'll see you next one. For those of you expecting some car stuff, well, it was about roads. Sorry about that. I'll speak to you soon. I'll post some more car stuff as well. Cheers. Bye. You still here?